Radio Okitalk, Radio Okitalk, von Mensch zu Mensch.
This is the Wizard of Odd edition, episode 11, The Elements. Tonight,
11.
Yes, with Bryan and special guest Brandon O'Ramdas. Welcome.
Hare Krishna.
Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be back. I'm looking forward to today's discussion, as always. Yeah, this should be very interesting. So today we're going to talk about the elements, and from a perspective of using those in breaking them down to their simplest concepts, and discussing how those get used in practical application. I've heard a lot of theoretical and conceptual discussions on that, and I thought it would be really good to see how that is, broken down to a more physical plane area, and then after that. I wanted to discuss a really amazing physical technique called Ginseng Jitsu that is, I've been searching out different methods of metaphysics like all my life. And this particular method I just found in the last couple of years, and it has just become a super focal point in my daily practice and body maintenance. And I want to go into that. One of the things I love about it the most is it's the simplest thing that you can do that I know, next to doing absolutely nothing. I really enjoy ritual and, all of the different avenues I've explored. I've gotten into really exploring all of the methods and methodology to those things. But I find as I try to pass those on many times, the work required to understand those and learn all that. A lot of people really aren't interested enough or willing to invest that kind of energy. And the thing I'm so excited about this is that it really requires no energy whatsoever, just your thought to start doing it and a couple of simple positions with your hands, and you're good. So I'm very, very excited about that. And I wanted to share a couple of breathing techniques, one of which is really marvelous for bringing your energy down into a peaceful zone, and from that place you can meditate, you can jump off into projective practice, you can do lots of different things. And it's a really useful thing that if something happens and you're feeling anxiety or kind of upset, it's a wonderful method for bringing you back. And the second one I want to share is a method for creating heat and healing energy in your body. And I use this one. This one's a staple in my practice. So that's kind of where I'm looking to go today. Everybody good with that?
Sounds awesome to me. I'm already excited. Sure. Where do we start?
Well, let's start with the elements. And I'm really referring to the Western concept of magic.
Well, Western concept of magic. Everything is connected with everything. Yet sometimes in live shows, it may very well happen, as you know, Brandon, what they call spontaneous disconnects and teleportations.
Yeah, man. That was literally he was about to go into the juice. And then it just bloop.
What was that?
Yes, here we are. So we're all excited. We're just about to start. So now we can reconnect. Brian, the floor is yours.
What? Okay. Was any of that like? Are we starting over? Or
well, you were about to get into the juice, so you said the Western element.
Yes.
And then...
Okay. And then it went out. All right. So, the Western elements consist of 5 elements, and that's fire, water, air, and earth. And then all of those are the energies that are manifested in the physical world, and those energies are controlled by a controlling energy, which is spirit. So, in using them, I first start with fire, and that's one of my favorite ones. Fire is the primal creative force. It's the energy that happens at the beginning of a scenario that you want to do or accomplish, and it's the raw juice. It's unformed. It's not directed, and it is just the raw material that then flows to the second element, which is water. And that controls the emotion, or that represents your emotions and how you're feeling about things. And that energy takes the potential or the batch of fire energy and that potential energy and starts to sculpt that with desire and what you want that to happen. And then the third element is air, and from the energy to the desire that begins to form a direction, then the air element is all about the mind and plans and figuring things out, and that is the element that helps you focus that desire and make a tangible plan to actually manifest that. And earth is the element of manifestation in the real world. So those 4 elements are not separate. They're always, and there are pieces of those in everything. I've tried many times to find a situation that was just purely fire or purely water. And, I think in the physical world, I've yet to come upon that. It's all a mix of those ingredients that boils up into the soup. So, I'll use the tarot as a perfect example. My favorite layout is a 4-element spread, in which you lay out a series of 4 cards on a row horizontally, and then 3 cards for each row down vertically. And in a reading, that first column will show you what the energy is, and if you want, we can after we do this, we could do a quick reading and kind of demonstrate this. But using the first column being fire is the energy surrounding the situation. So whatever your question is, those cards kind of give you an insight into what kind of energy is flowing around the situation at the moment. And because I use the top card in that column is usually very recent past, the middle card is the now, the moment now, and then the last card is the very immediate future. So it kind of gives you a feeling for what the juice has been about, coming up to this, and where you are with it now, and where it stands right now, and the likely direction that will go. And then the next column is the water column, the emotions, and those cards always indicate how you're feeling about the situation, what your desires are in it. If you're reading I'm approaching this as if I'm reading for myself, and so those cards represent how you're feeling about it, what your emotional juice has been about, and that kind of like focuses the desire for where you want to go. And then the third column is the air column, and that's about the plans and what's being thought about this particular thing, and it's the ration or the physical construction of actually how to make that manifest, how to take that energy and that desire and actually form it into something, and the plans to form that. And then the earth column represents if those three columns are left unchecked, and there's no energy put forth to change any of those cards along the way. The earth column represents the natural flow of how those energies are going to manifest. And once I really got that, it was kind of an eye opener. I struggled with the elements and really understanding them on a real level for a long time. And this is one of the methods that really kind of like crystallized that for me, and how to be able to use that. Also, in my sphere of learning, your aura is not just one big glob of light that radiates around you. Your aura has significant structures within it. And your first band, which is usually about an inch and a half around your physical body, represents the earth element. The second band, which is usually, when you hear people say, "Oh man, that guy's he's really red," or "he's really blue," that's because the person is seeing the radiance from your second band. If you think about how much juice your emotions have and how hard they can expand or contract or make you feel something really intensely, and those weird little bursts that those emotional intensities can have, that's why that band is the brightest one usually, and that's your second band, and that usually extends depending on the juice of the person and how collimated they are with their energy. That band usually extends out about 18 to 24 inches from your body. And then out past that is your third band, which is where I've been trying to live a lot. I've lived a lot in my emotional band, and that's really useful for some things, but man, that can really get in the way of a good plan. And your third band is where you deal with facts and figures. And okay, this is a really good example. I've been studying with the guy I've been working with now for about 12 years, and when we first got together, and my focus with him is about physical effects, telekinetics, and doing physical things with your focused energy. So when I first started studying with him, I'd go over to his place, and he would show me the effect he wanted me to learn, and being in that energy would write a little groove in my third band, and that would make it easier than when I went away and practiced and got it down to find that groove again and get to that effect faster. So we did that for many, many years. But in the last 4 years, that first focus area was about physical effects and finding access to your usable juice. And in the last 4 years, we've really focused on the intuitive side, the clairvoyant side of our training. So now, instead of going to his place and seeing the effect happen and being in the energy for that to happen, he sends me a package of energy with little constructs in it and little Easter eggs that contain information, and he plants those in my third band. And then it's my responsibility then to go into my third band and unlock the little packages, decipher what the information is, which in the third band is not about feelings or general concepts. It's actual instructions, words, symbols, methodologies, and I have to ascertain what the effect is and decipher the instructions on how to get there, and then practice that, and then go over to his house and do the effect. And when we first started doing that, like I said, I've been doing that for about 4 years now. When we first started doing that, it was very, 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 very difficult. I hadn't really tuned that part of my awareness yet. And because I operated on such an intense emotional level, at first accessing the third band was difficult in and of itself, and then accessing the information. And I learned with pictures. I'm a really visual person, so my main way of learning on my own is to find visuals or to be able to create visuals. And luckily, since I'm an artist, that's where your imagination and your ability to visualize and see that in your own mind comes. But I always make pictures. And the exercise in the third band was and is super, super useful, because that's kind of like trained me over a period of time to be able to see words, to be able to relate a sentence, to be able to, I had a test at the end of a long period of learning, and that test was threefold. And the first part of that was he sent me 3 symbols. All 3 of those symbols had an emotion connected to them. So I had to go into the third band, ascertain what the symbols were and in the correct order. And then I had to then move back from the third band into the second band to ascertain what the emotional connection was to each of those. So then the next test was a 3x3 square with 9 emotions attached to that. And then the last one was a 9x9 square with 81. And the symbols were, some of them were numbers, some of them were just symbols, some of them were letters from different alphabets. And I had to be able to go into that and go through the entire thing, like get all the symbols correct in their proper order, and then assign the emotional attachment to those. I did really well on the first 2, and I thought I had done really well on the last one, but that I inverted 2 of the symbols in the last row. Oh man, do over, do it again. So I had to go work on that again, and it was really difficult. But actually concentrating on that method has like focused me on dealing with my daily life, problems, things happening, and that is really a function of the air element and the third band, and working in conjunction with the second band, really mainly, to manifest something in the first band. And then the last band is the fire band, or fourth band, and that's really, your bands go off for a long. I haven't been able to see the end of them yet. I don't know how far they go out. They may go out infinitely, and really that concept brought to light in a very real way the concept that, yes, in fact, we are all one. Because at some point, out past a few feet from your body, 6 feet from your body, or if you're like in the grocery store, or you're at a concert, or you're in some scenario where there's a crowd, everybody's aura is connected at that point. Maybe not your second band, but certainly your third, fourth band, and the bands out past that. Really, in this physical incarnation, there are 6 bands that you deal with on a regular basis. Your fifth and sixth band are out past your energy band, and that fire band, that energy band, is your energy interface with the rest of the universe. So as energy flows into you, as you're drawing energy into you, it flows through that fourth band and then filters down through the rest of your bands into your physical body. So with those energies, I've always kind of looked at the aura now as the software that determines how your body, which is the hardware, is actually going to run. And as an example of that and how that energy actually manifests, and this is kind of a good piece of information for the time we're living in right now. If you focus on something, hang on one second. There we go.
What I can think of is, just as you mentioned, like the software determines whether you will find any bugs in your hardware. Now, this can go on many levels, of course.
Yes, exactly. Well, and that's the point I'm just getting ready to make. Okay, say you're really afraid of getting, and I have more tangible examples of this than I'd like to think, but I had a really good friend who was obsessed about getting cancer, and he did everything he could possibly do physically. He ate, and this is a while back. This is before it was just kind of blooming, people becoming more aware of what they're eating and the effects that the food intake that we have affects our physical. He was eating grains and I can't think of a single thing that he did for his physical body that was negative. He didn't abuse alcohol, or he didn't eat crap food. He was just so obsessed with keeping it healthy because he was deathly afraid of dying of cancer. So what fear does, since fear is such an intense emotion, if you stay focused on that, and you stay focused on that, and you stay focused on that, that winds up placing a little gunji, a small little gunji in your second band. And if you continue to focus on that, it grows and it sends out little tendrils. To me, the closest thing I can make an analogy to is like a brain cell and the ganglia that come out of your brain cells, And as you focus on your fear and your, when you're afraid of something that intensely, you've already sort of made it real in your mind, and that grows, and it continues to grow, and it continues to grow. And if you are unaware of your aura and how to take care of that, and do a daily aura bath, just like you take a shower for your physical body and get the goo off, and that goo stays there, it winds up growing and growing and growing, and depending on how much energy you're feeding it, it can take years, it can go really quickly in a matter of months. It grows down into your first band, and then once it crosses from your first band into your actual physical body, it's now programmed to kill you. And that's exactly what happened to this guy. And it really opened my eyes to the power of fear and the power of your mind to manifest the things it focuses on. So, the bands of your aura are integrally connected to the concept of the elements, and the spirit part of that is your own God self and your connection to the higher spirit, and using that to help focus those elements is a really, really useful thing in all magic. So any comments at this point?
Brandon?
So you mentioned all these are connected to your connection with the higher spirit, what we call the higher self. Would you say that these elements have a personality? And would you say that this higher self, so when you're interfacing in magic, you're essentially interfacing with higher personality? Is it a personal thing, or is it more kind of more material?
I don't anthropomorphize the elements, although I can't help it because I'm an artist and emotional. It's like all the tarot archetypes, and I do connect to that, but I don't put physical attachments to that, and my concept of it is not. It's that higher self. We are pieces of that higher self, and my whole focus for finding my own energy is finding the God and the spirit that lives in me, and that has proven to be a connection on higher levels at a very intense connection. Plus, my main, and I mentioned that there in this physical incarnation, there are 6 bands that we operate in, but those bands go up farther. There's another set of bands and another set of bands, and in each one of those sets, there's another you, like a higher, more evolved you that is functioning in their own world just like you're functioning in this world. And one of my major quests this life has been to connect to that energy and to merge with that and to learn from that zone. And I grew up Catholic, so I had saints and all kinds of physical embodiments of the spirit, but I don't find those assignments useful, and the most when I'm doing a physical effect, we've talked about this a number of times, that moving the rod thing, Raphael. When I first started really having some success with that, I noticed that my energy level magnified and my energy body magnified. It was this feeling of absolute bliss and connection, and I realized that that was the best connection to God I had ever experienced, and that has, once I latched onto that and have been watering that over a decade, it's now like, that's my worship. That's where I go to commune. And anyway, did that answer your question?
Yes.
Do you see it differently?
My only question would be if we're talking about something that's, the spirit, that's absolute, what would be the difference then between the body of that spirit and the soul of that spirit? With those, like, how they call it like a light body? I feel like at some point you get to a space where, on this where we're at, we have, we have like this kind of idea that our body and our soul are like separate things, and they are in a way, because one of them is animate and another is inanimate. One of them animates,
but they're not, and I think that's one of the main problems with how people approach metaphysics and spirituality in general, because they're inextricably linked. Like keeping your physical body in good shape, but not addressing your astral body at all. You can't be whole. You're only addressing one part of you. I don't think that you can disconnect them. I think you can look at different aspects of yourself when you're you're in the we're all in the process of growing and evolving and learning and trying to figure it out, and and in that zone, I think you can focus on this element, but I think you're inextricably linked to your energy, and you can't do something in your energy body and not have it affect your physical, and you can't do things in your physical and not have that affect your energy body. Everything you do affects your energy body. Everything you physically do affects one band. Everything you feel affects another band. Everything you think affects another band. And
Right.
then the actual, what do you do in the world as a whole, that's a whole nother thing. So I think those things are inextricably linked.
Right. Until you die, right? Then you leave the body.
Well, this body, but there's another body. This is just
Right.
a physical construct. This is not the all by any stretch of the imagination. This is just a floor in the building.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, I agree totally. I've talked about this before with like contracts. There's no difference between a soul contract and a physical contract, but at the same time, it's like, because we're using English, we have to qualify everything. It's like the word that we would use is there's variegatedness. It's not that it's like, basically when I eat a sandwich, that sandwich actually becomes my body. The sandwich is the same as my body in the sense that it's made out of the same atoms, it's made out of the same elements that my body's made out of, but it's different in its composition. Does that make sense? It's like,
well, certainly, yeah, and everything in the physical world is just an arrangement of chemicals,
yeah, but there's like our consciousness is the thing that actually answers it. So from what I'm understanding, from what you're saying, is magic is having the conscious element learn how to actually step into its role and be the mover, the animator of these of these elements that would normally be inanimate on their own.
Well, I don't think they're inanimate. I think without your conscious intellect, like what's happening, if you have no awareness of your aura and you have no ability to see that or feel that in any way, shape, or form, and that's a silly concept. Like, I know a lot of people that think that's just ridiculous. That's just crazy. You can't see it, you can't touch it, it's not here. But that doesn't mean that there isn't just all kinds of things going on in that part of your body. But it's like you just turn the car on, and put it in drive and sent it out of the garage without a driver in it. You know, it's still rolling around doing things and creating stuff. You know, and I've talked to people where they're, I just understand why this keeps happening, and I'm like, well, have you addressed this part of it yet? You know, because that's kind of like the whole. You know, you want to be whole. You want to have all of you actuated towards going to the goal of evolving and progressing to whatever whatever's next. You know.
Okay, so you'd say it'd be more. So would you suggest that it'd be more synonymous to like waking up from sleepwalking?
I don't know that it's waking up from sleepwalking as much as it is opening the door to a new room that you never knew existed.
Right. Didn't change the fact that it was still there. You just didn't know it was there.
You just didn't ever bother to turn the knob and open the door. You know, hey, wow, look at this! Holy crap! I didn't know this was here. You know,
yeah.
And those revelations for me were beyond joyous. I mean, I was just like blown away when you start. And then you realize in that room, hey man, there's another door over there. Let's go check that one. You know, so I think that just understanding that that's even a possibility, you know, and open to your own investigation. If you go questing for it, you know, your higher spirits and there are entities that interact with us too that throw us bones from time to time or help, you know, like bump the, oh man, he's about to go off the road, give him a little bump. You know. So, you know, I think I think that massive discovery, you open the door and you see what lies on the other side, and you know, for immediate exploration, is one of my greatest joys. And as the soul of an explorer, oh man, I find incredible delight in that process. Do you practice? What's your spiritual practice?
So my spiritual practice is devotion. It's called bhakti yoga. It's a devotion to the what you're calling the higher self, the higher spirit. And from my understanding, it's you have first you have the instruments, you know, that we call the elements. These are physical objects, or whether they be gross or subtle, whether they be, you know, very material like this computer that I'm using, or a little more subtle like the intelligence.
Building blocks.
Yeah, exactly. And so the intelligence, the mind, it requires an agent in order for it to be used. Instruments require a user. And so we say that user...
That spirit.
Yes. But we say that user is there's an individual aspect of it. So, you know, like you and me are both individuals. We call that Jiva Atma. But then at the same time, the Jiva Atma is not totally in control of what's going on in their life. There's an instigator that's actually bringing experiences to them that they may not necessarily want to happen. And we call that the higher self, or the Paramatma. But then
or karma.
Yeah, who the Paramatma is the one who is the what you call the Lord of Karma, the one who runs the whole show. But then we take it a step further and we say that in order for this being, if this being is to be what's called Ishvara, the absolute controller, can't just be inside of a person. If it's only inside of a person, then it's not actually independent. In order for it to be 100% independent, it also has to be simultaneously outside of this creation. We call that Bhagavan. That's what we call God. That's what we call the highest self. And from our understanding and from my own personal experience, this being has an impersonal aspect, an effulgence, what you would call an aura. And out of that aura, this material universe is manifested. But at the same time, he has an internal potency, a even higher aspect than that, which actually has a personality. It's a supreme personality. And that supreme personality is the controller of everything. He's also known as the enjoyer of everything. And in order for us to advance in life, it's actually up to this supreme controller to make everything happen. And so in our life, we have two options. We can either devote our life to the service of that supreme being, or we can devote our life to the service of the shadow cast by that supreme being, known as Maya or illusion. And we say that this universe exists in spiritual variegatedness, where everything is both one and different from God at the same time. We are both one. We're one qualitatively with God. We have all the same qualities as Him. We are wealthy. We are beautiful. We are wise. We have piety. We have all these fantastic qualities. We just have them on a certain scale. God has them on a quantitatively infinite scale. So we would say that we are the same as God qualitatively, but not the same quantitatively. And so everything you've been talking about with like the elements and all that, yes, we actually agree completely. There's 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and then we call the 5th one, sometimes they call it ether, sometimes they call it akasha, sometimes they call it sky, some people call it spirit. But yeah, we agree with all those things. My practice is I focus on that being with everything that I do, Bhagavan, because it's essentially like watering the roots of a tree, and then it feeds the whole thing, while on the leaves and the stems and the branches would be akin to more of its external potencies, the elements. And so it's kind of taken like a fast track to getting complete, you could call it control, but I kind of call it complete serenity with these elements by focusing on that supreme personality that but we agree with everything that you say. Actually, it's actually very beautiful to hear.
You know, one of the things I've come to over the last number of years is, you know, if you think about, you know, we're, as a population, everybody's always looking for similarities and ways that they do things the same, and that seems like a connection, and in a way, on a very surface level, it is. But when you think about it, you know, they talk about the multiverse in quantum physics, you know, that there are infinite numbers of universes all happening at the same time. And it's my belief at this moment that, you know, how many people are there in the world? 6 billion people in the world? You
Yeah.
know, that's 6 billion separate universes. Because if you think about it, no matter how much okay, just take the 3 of us. No matter how much we agree with each other about a particular subject, that's like one little thread. But, you know, being the stars in our own movies, you know, that plot line goes all the way back to the moment you were born, you know, and it's this whole universe of experience that no one else except God is ever going to touch, you know.
Yeah.
So those universes and those experiences, you know, I heard this a long time ago that each of us are different manifestations of the one, so that in a way the one feels all of those experiences, and it's all connected, but we are a universe unto ourselves that
And we are back for episode 11 with the Wizard of Odd, Bryan, and also special guest Brandon O. Ramdas. We've just been expanding upon Achintya Abheda Bheda Tattva, the simultaneous oneness and difference of God and God's creation. Bryan.
Apologies for that. We have been having the internet, the bandwidth in this country is just so overwhelmed because everybody's staying home and surfing. And my apologies for that. And
It's
we'll
all
do
good.
the best. We'll do the best we can.
Of course. And all I can say is it seems too many people streaming full HD videos from Netflix instead of doing online talks with the 100 kilobits we are using, but for whatever strange allocations happening, synchronicities abound. So Bryan, yeah, you've just been expanding upon the idea of everything being one and the same, yet being different. If you wish to continue, we heard everything you said except, let's say, the last 2-3 sentences.
Yeah, it's that concept of the multiverse and everybody being in their own scenario. I say that we're separate right now because we don't really have the ability, or most of us don't have the ability to go to ride into your movie and be able to see your movie without my interpretation of your movie. Or because what happens most of the time now is we speak to each other in words that have analogous meanings to different things, and our rational selves put that together in how that makes sense within the construct of our personal universe. So what's happening in your universe that you're telling me about is literally my interpretation of what you're saying, so that we can come close to an understanding. And the better you get at communicating and using language in an effective way, the better that can come. But that can never come close altogether. So my mode is that each of us is a universe, a separate universe unto ourselves, and that universe is connected to the omnipotent energy that is everything, everywhere, and all encompassing, and that everything is a construction out of that primal energy has been drawn down in different ways and put together to form physical constructs in a material world, and not just this world, but there are other dimensions like the being that we refer to this as the ally, just because that's a simple way to say that. But that's actually you. And when I connected to that and I saw this other kind of person approaching me that looked exactly like me, I about fell over backwards. Except that he was a whole lot brighter. Oh my word! And they operate. Their world operates on such a higher frequency than ours that it was, and the process to get to that was a lengthy process of being able to jack up my own frequency to the point of getting his attention and then connecting to that. So anyway, I think I pretty much have covered that, unless you guys have some other questions or comments.
I did. I actually have 3 very short little verses here that describe everything that you're saying about the whole multiplicity and unity in one, if you don't mind me sharing.
Please.
Okay. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Vishuddham Kevalam Jnanam Pratyat Samyagavastitam Satyam Purnam Mayadi Antam Nirgunam Nityam Advayam Krishi Vedanti Munayaha Prashantat Medrinyashayaha Yadata Devasa Tarkes Tirodhiyate Viplutam Adyo Vatara Purusha Parasya Kalasvabhava sadhana samanascha pravyam vikaro guna indriyani virats varats tasnu charishnu bhumnaha. Translation. The personality of Godhead is pure, being free from all contaminations of material tinges. He is the absolute truth and the embodiment of full and perfect knowledge. He is all-pervading, without beginning or end, and without rival. O Narada, O great sage, the great thinkers can know him when completely freed from all material hankerings, and when sheltered under undisturbed conditions of the senses. Otherwise, by untenable arguments, all is distorted, and the Lord disappears from our sight. Karananavasya Vishnu is the first incarnation of the Supreme Lord, and he is the eternal time, space, cause and effects, mind, the elements, the material ego, the modes of nature, the senses, the universal form of the Lord, Garbhodakashyas Vishnu, and the sum total of all living beings, both moving and non-moving. So, put it very, I do not claim to be a qualified commentator on this, because this is very, this knowledge is so great, it breaks my hair stand on end. But essentially what this means is the variegatedness of what you're speaking about is like, like you said, we each have our own universe, but at the same time we have this there's this connection to it where we all like you said, you have an awareness that I have my own universe. The fact that you know that I have my own universe inside of me also tells me that our universes are also very much interlinked. And while you might not be able to 100% totally understand it, you get pretty darn close. And that closeness is because we take, in my opinion, and kind of how I've been experiencing it, we take that intuition from someone, or from something. And that someone is kind of like the ham radio. It's letting everybody else know what's going on with everybody else so that we can peacefully and successfully navigate our reality together. All I got to say, though, Bryan, is just I want to thank you for your wisdom and your experience, the things that you're sharing, because they very much, everything that you're saying is just a confirmation for me of what I've been studying, and it really helps me. I really appreciate that.
Excellent. That makes me really happy. So, let's see. It is now a good time to possibly do a little piece of music and come back and start talking about some energy work, some breathing exercises, and some energy work.
Totally, we can do that. How many minutes would you like?
Your usual blast of something cool. I have to say, one of my favorite parts of doing this is hearing what you're going to play.
Yeah, dude, you got to hook me up with that playlist.
I love your selections, man, and your the Royals mixes. I just delighted in those. Have been so fun. But you have such a wide, eclectic range of stuff, which is kind of the way I see my own musical landscape as well. It's been really fun to get surprises. It's been great. So thanks.
So how's that for some religious music?
Awesome. There you go, man. That's amazing as always. You're always a surprise. That's an Aquarian loves nothing more. So I'm kind of excited about talking about autophagy as we start to get into breathing and energy. And are you familiar with that concept, Raphael?
Kindly restate the exact term.
Autophagy.
Oh yes, of course. Sure. Get into it. Yes.
Okay. I'm autophagy. Well, first of all, it's auto. Phagy, and what that actually translates to is self-eating. And I'm just coming off, and one of the best ways to activate that is by fasting. And I've just come. I stopped last night at. I did my 72-hour fast over the last 4 days, or 3 days rather, and just wrapped up last night at midnight. And the benefits to this, anybody that is at all interested, there are so many studies being put forth right now about the benefits of this. And what actually happens during the course of that time is, as you cease to put outside nutrients into your body, your cells start eating old cells and damaged cells. And if you can maintain a fast, and that's with like water and coffee as your and not and black coffee, not like loaded up with crap and foam and sugar. And I used one avocado that. And the reason for that is that it doesn't really register as food in your body. It's anyway. So what happens during the course of that time is that your cells actually regenerate, and a lot of the sites that you'll see if you investigate it, they call it like the fountain of youth, and I've taken on this practice over the last 5-6 years to do this 2 or 3 times a year. It was a little difficult at first because I was so trained in my mind to feel like, oh, I can't survive without food. And if you're going past the time when you normally like have yourself programmed to eat, you're going, oh man, I'm hungry. But if you ride through that, and I think the point at where it starts to really kick in is at like 20 hours, and then if you do like 48, 72, you increase those benefits exponentially. So it resets the cells in your body. It resets mental clarity as well. Man, I woke up this morning just like, wow, I feel so good. I always expect, even though I know this is different, there's still part of me. It's like, oh, you're going to be so tired, or oh man, I just don't have the energy for that. And I'm like O negative blood type, so that particular blood type is usually a wide range of foods, but not heavily, but certainly relying on a protein as much as the vegetable scenarios. So getting past that and not feeling that anymore, I almost didn't want to eat last night, and I almost wanted to keep going. It wasn't like it became a struggle. Like after the first day, it's like, woohoo, man, I'm just on this amazing ride, and you can kind of feel your physical changing, and your energy changes drastically. I did a really intense aura search night before last, that I wanted to see what kind of effect it was having on my energy, and I was talking about your second band being your brightest one because it was emotional. But what I found was my fourth band, which doesn't usually light up because it's more of a conduit, was just glowing. And all parts of my aura had expanded. My first band is usually an inch and a half away from my body. It was like 6-8 inches out. It was like everything had just kind of expanded. And the reason I bring this up right now, and I think this is really a viable countermeasure to the goo that's happening in the world right now, is one of the main things that this does is reboot and weaponize your whole immune system. And it just kicks everything into high gear, and you are just like all of your immune system faculties are now operating at full bore. And when you're, we are miraculous machines. We are really miraculous machines, and we were designed to combat, external pressures and things that come in from us. So in a zone right now where just going outside and breathing the air, you could catch something that kills you, weaponizing that part of that. And that was really kind of the crux of why I was chose right now to do this, because I did one of these back in December too. And the fact that it's a contagion, a virus, and it attacks all of those systems. Weaponizing that, I think when you're at your full speed, you're not invulnerable or invincible, but you are significantly strengthened, and your ability to fend off those things. Like when my aura is glowing like it is right now, it's projecting, and goo that's floating around looking for a place to land doesn't have anywhere to go, because I'm pushing that away just with the nature of my energy right now. And in Miami, it's kind of it's such a tourist place, and a place where so many people travel in and out. And there's boneheads on spring break. I don't know if you saw any of that, man. It's like, hey, everybody needs to kind of chill out and stay home, And spring break happened, and like Miami Beach was like wall-to-wall people from all over the country that then left spring break infected and went back to their homes. Oh, nice, really good. So Miami is kind of becoming a little bit of a hot spot for that, and I just wanted to ramp up my own, as much as I have my own physical ability to do that, ramp up my own defenses against intrusion from outside toxins. So if you haven't done it, strongly, you've done that many times, have you, Raphael?
Not sure about many times, but quite a few times in total, but like variations. So like 3-day water fast, or 5 days, and kind of like eating one cucumber made into a smoothie per day or something like that, or just very special like drinks, but which are only liquid and maybe loaded with vitamins or something, but nothing else. And basically I can confirm what you're saying. The interesting part, of course, is
you feel amazing after that, don't you?
Well, definitely. And that's also one of the reasons why I generally adopted my eating habits towards, like, let's say, as much as possible, let's say, toxin-free food. And also just, doing things like intermittent fasting or reducing general food intake, because whilst it's certainly true that these massive effects certainly happen after this, like 1, 2, 3 day period in particular, it's also an overall thing. So one doesn't need to go so extreme, may even just want to check out, reducing certain food intake or doing intermittent fasting. And over a period of time, you also get highly beneficial effects. But certainly doing, just as you mentioned, is highly recommended to anyone who feels ready to do so and stable enough and so on, and not too scared, because then you can really feel like the strongest version of that effect. You can even feel it after 1 day if you do it right. And actually there is, according to some studies, a certain, I would guess, transmitter molecule or something called GHB, which actually is similar apparently to ecstasy in some regards. And there is actually measurable, a heightened output of that particular substance in your body, which may kind of explain these strange euphoria type feelings one can easily access upon fasting if one is in the right state of mind, just as you described.
There's really no reason to be afraid of this, actually. I would strongly encourage, you're going for a total reset. And if you start on this in your youth and continue this throughout your life, you know, your physical journey through the physical world will be infinitely improved. You know, and resetting and regenerating. You don't really have to get old. You really don't. So anyway, strongly encourage have you Brendan, have you done the fasting thing or checked out the concept of autophagy?
Oh yeah, for sure. When I first got into my awakening, I was around 17 years old, 23 now. At that time, I was like obsessed with it. Like I used to do it so much that because there's like a balance to it, and I used to do it so much to where I would just be like I would stand up and then pass out. One time I did like a 28-day water fast, and I realized that there's a it even says in the Bhagavad Gita, he who eats too much and he who eats too little, his mind will become irritated, so he can't actually perform his duties properly. But when I would do I used to do 1-day fast, 2-day fast, 3-day fast, where I would only drink water, or maybe I would drink some homemade lemonade, like some lemon juice and some honey. And right now I'm kind of on a fast, I kind of almost fast every day. Yesterday I had my last meal at around 3 o'clock. So, and it's about 10:30 a.m. right now. So I'm almost at a whole day without eating, and I feel fantastic. And
Hey, where are you at? Just out of curiosity.
I'm in the Dallas area in Texas.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, and
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
yeah, that's okay. The something I learned is the more that the less attachment that we have to our body, like the less that when you really fix this relationship with food, your identification with your body starts to go away, and that's when your real power begins. Because once you're not identified with something, you can actually use it. Like if I were to identify myself with a hammer, every time that I use the hammer, it would cause me severe amounts of pain because mentally I'd be identifying with the striking of this hammer. But as soon as I say, okay, I'm not this hammer is just for me to use, now I can slam the hammer up against the wall and on nails and stuff and have no issue. Same thing with the body. Whenever I get that relationship with food where I just say, okay, I need food to rebuild my body, but I don't necessarily need food to actually give me happiness, then you can decide, okay, I don't want to eat right now. Okay, yes, it's time to feast. And you just feel amazing, and regardless of what you're doing, eating or not eating, you're just blissed out. So yeah, I love fasting.
Yeah, when you change your mindset from an emotional connection to food, you realize that your body really is a tool and a machine, and maintaining that machine is really great, advice, man. And when you disconnect the reward, so many people use food for comfort. It's like every time I hear comfort food, I just want to scream. And it's like, because comfort food is the worst crap you could possibly eat, and it might make you feel good for the few seconds that it's actually going down your gullet. But, what's that actually doing for your machine to run? And getting carbs, sugar, man, deleting sugar from your body, that's such a drug, and people don't talk about that, but it's such a drug. It influences your emotions. It becomes a craving, just like a heroin addict, man, cannot live without that heroin, and they actually go into physical things and withdraw when they get off that. And sugar is not to that degree, but in a way it's even just as insidious because it winds up programming you to keep fulfilling it. and the foods that you crave and the things are really responding to that outside impetus that you put in your body instead of actually listening. And it's, for me, that's really loud. When I'm in that mode, man, that's all I'm hearing. Once you remove sugar from your daily diet, and you're just operating in your own energy, it's amazing. It amazes me how my body will tell me exactly what I need. I crave a Brussels sprout, or I crave asparagus, or like things people don't commonly refer to as like a treat, or some kind of reward. It's like, and learning to pay attention to that over the years, it just amazes me. It's like, go get the spinach, and you listen, you go get it, you eat it, and I can like instantly feel that those nutrients going to the areas that's been depleted. I have to be really conscious of that, because the physical energy practices that I get into are really brutal about depleting certain nutrients and chemicals from your system. So I've become really aware of needing to replace those, like oxalic acid and chromium, and I mean things that just get, like, if you do a really big effect and like the next day you're feeling kind of wobbed out, it's because you used up all your reserves. So I find that usually my cravings relate to replacing some uh, uh, ingredient that I need to keep the balance. And that's one thing I wanted to comment on. When you were talking about going overboard with the fasting, I'm always. I've been a person of extremes pretty much my entire life, and one of the best things I've come to realize and start to go to is about balance, and finding the things where you're balanced in, hopefully, perfection, but it's usually swaying one way or the other. But the closer you can get that to center, the better your energy, your body, and consequently your whole being now is functioning at an optimum level, which is really great.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my wrap on autophagy. Do you anything else to add to that?
You said it perfectly, man.
Yeah. Well,
All right.
thank you. It's
All right.
always a good reminder. So, but you can proceed.
Okay, we're going to move on to some breathing exercises now, which are super simple. Take a little practice at first to find it's like with anything, you're doing a musical scale, on a piano. First time you sit down to do a C scale, you really have to think about your fingers, and you're telling your fingers where to go and how to position, and after you practice that scale long enough and it becomes muscle memory, then you're only thinking about the music that you want to make, not about the technique of actually producing a sound. And that's what you need to get to with these breathing exercises. And the first one, I thought this would be really useful in this time of kind of craziness. It is a fantastic method for quelling anxiety and bringing fear down. And I don't know about you, but when my emotional side gets into circle thinking about something that's disturbing me, man, I can just blow that so far out of proportion, and it just keeps going and going until I make a little bark in my second band. Like, oh, okay, no. So when you're feeling, you get some bad news, or you're just obsessing about something, there is a breathing technique that works really, really great, and that is a 4 breath in for a count of 4 on an intake, hold that for 2 breaths, and then release that for 4, and then hold that for 2 breaths, and repeat that process again and again. That becomes a wave that you attach to. And the energy of that, it's like now I can, when I first started doing it, before I'd really made it into muscle memory for me, it would take me 5-10 minutes maybe to get to that really deeper space. But now that that's kind of muscle memory for me, I can get there, in 10-15 seconds. And man, I just use that so often in deflating that anxiety balloon, the fear balloon, any of the negative emotions that start to try to run away with your consciousness. You can bring that back down. It's also really useful to set up, like if you're going to do some intuitive practice, you want to channel another being, you want to go astral traveling. Yeah, well, even the projective practice, you want to get focused and clear enough, and you sweep out the room before you start that. This breathing technique works so amazingly well, and it's such a simple thing. I'm the Occam's razor guy, man. Give me the simplest answer, and this one works really, really well. Brendan, I know that your style of practice, there are many, many different breathing techniques. Do you exercise those yourself?
Yes, I do. I do it every day. Alternate nostril breathing.
Do you have different breathing techniques for different effects that you want to manifest?
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I don't really have, at this point in my life, I don't have any specific effects that I want. I really just want to connect with God more and more. But the one that so everything that I do is instructed by my spiritual master. So one that he has he's empowered me with is pretty much exactly what you were saying. It's just with the alternate nostrils. You inhale in, hold, exhale, hold the exhale, inhale in, hold the exhale. And this really balances out the subtle channels in your body, also the what are called the nadis.
It does indeed.
Yeah, and it really, the effect it gives for me is I'm just so clear-headed. My ability to focus is so much enhanced. And right now it's happening. It's like this goosebump feeling. All my hair standing on end.
Yeah, right. I love that.
Yeah, and I'm just happy just to be alive, and that power of breathing. So I'm also a cross-country runner. I'm a track athlete and a cross-country athlete, and there was a time when I remember I really sprained my ankle really badly, and I couldn't do any training, but I could do all the breathing techniques. And so I did all the breathing exercises, and you work up a sweat, man. Like there's the one called the breath of fire, where you breathe in and out through your nose, and you really focus on the inhale and then kind of just let the exhale come out. And it makes this, it's real loud sounding like, and I would do, things like this. And after I healed my ankle, I got back on the track and I ran the fastest mile that I ever ran in my life. It was fantastic.
Yeah, awesome. Well, the next one I want to share with you is really, I consider one of my gems, and it's about healing. And people ask me from time to time, it's like, well, why do you spend all your time doing all that energy stuff? I mean, what difference does it make to be able to spin a rod or materialize something or move something? And those are just the exercises to build up your muscles. but one of my main focuses has been the process of healing myself and other people. And that's something that my teacher's just amazing at. And I've wanted to make that a focus of my magical practice for a long time. And in the process of healing, their energy comes in so many different forms, and you can shape it and tune it with your intent. And in the healing zone, when you're wanting to mend something, so like a really bad cut or a bone break or something like that, you want to go to energy that is really, really hot. And that juice propagates the healing process, speeds up your cellular regrowth, and mends things. If, on the other hand, you're dealing with somebody, and this is a scenario that's near and dear to my heart, because just a couple of months ago, I went through this with one of my best friends. Got colon cancer, and he had a golf ball size tumor on his colon. And in dealing with something that, like, if you fed that hot energy, you would just increase its spread like exponentially. So what you want to do with that is go to the opposite degree and go to sub-zero cold and freeze that and make that absolutely freeze and start to disappear. And it worked really great for him. He's doing really fine right now. The doctors are like, I really don't know where it went. And it's gone. It's really gone. And I worked. I don't want to claim credit for that. My teacher did the programming, and I did the heavy lifting with the energy on it. So we worked on that together, and it really was an amazing thing to watch. And I love the day he went back for a second MRI, and they're like, "What the fuck just happened?" I mean, because this thing. Well, he had two attachments. He had right where your colon comes out of your small intestines. That was a golf ball size, or not golf ball, a softball size tumor. It was huge. And then there was another one that was more like a ping pong ball at the opposite end of his colon, and both of those have dissipated, and he has shown no sign of any little stragglers that have decided to go light somewhere else and show up. He's knock on wood, so far so good. He's in a really good zone with that. So I want to share with you the breathing technique that you can use to generate hot energy, and it's really very simple. It's the first part of it is like a 3-piece chunk, and you would do this for about a month, and then if you want to escalate, you can add, and I'll show you how to do that too. So it's kind of a multiplication of heat, and what's kind of cool about this is that just like an oven, sometimes you want 160, sometimes you want broil, and it's good to be able to kind of tune that to what the need is, and come up with an appropriate temperature to cook whatever food you're cooking. So the first level of this is called the 4-8 breathing, and it is an intake of energy, a breath for 4, and then a slow release of that for 8. And I'd like to also highlight this. when I first started doing it, I was all about the big, deep breath, but it's really just the opposite. You need to like control that and be breathing through your second chakra, and make that as shallow as you possibly can make it. So you're breathing in for 4. Oh my God, my hand's heating up now. You're breathing in for 4, and you're exhaling for 8. Breathing in for 4, and you're exhaling to 8. And it's so shallow that somebody looking at you wouldn't even be able to see your abdomen going down or your lungs expanding. It's not breathing from your lungs. It's breathing from right below your diaphragm, which is a really good skill to have anyway. Breathing from there is really very, 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 very useful in so many different ways. So the first level of it is 4 in, slow 8 out. And I'm going to give you three cycles. All of them should be repeated when you're beginning for about 2 minutes. And then once you finish up the first one, then you go up to 6-12, and then 8-16. So you're doubling the exhale on the inhale. So those 3, that's like a 6-minute cycle. At the end of that, if you're doing it correctly, you will feel your hands, and I didn't feel my body light up right away. And that's because I was focused mentally on my hands, and that's where that was going. So as I got more proficient with being able to do that technique, I started letting go more of not sending it to my hands and lighting up my entire body, and then using that. Like I use my right hand mostly for projection and moving energy into something. So it would really be my right hand that would just get on fire. And that's the kind of energy that you want to use in if you're trying to help someone mend, if you're trying to increase blood flows, any kind of regenerative action or healing method, that's the one you want to use. So after you've done those for about a month, if you want it hotter, you can expand again. So the next one would be from 8-16, would be 16-32, and on and on and on and on and on. I haven't really ventured much past the 16-32 because where I am in my development right now, man, that gets me so hot, I really can't take it any hotter. So that's good. I'll stay there for a while, and once you build up your muscles, just like anything else, you lift weights, when you start out with 20 pounds, it might bust your ass, but after you do it for 6 months, you're going, wow, I need to add some more because this isn't pushing it anymore, And it's the same way with this. It's pretty much the same way with all practical methods. But anyway, so those 2 methods for dealing with anxiety and working and kind of clearing the room of extraneous thoughts to get you to a place of focus and clarity, that's the 4-2-4 breathing method. And then the healing heat method is the 4-8, 6-12, 8-16 breathing method. Any comments, criticisms?
No, dude, I'm actually a Reiki master by trade. Everything you're saying is exactly accurate. So I just wanted to clarify. So you're saying when it comes to healing ailments inside of our body, it's recommended that we do the techniques that would involve...
When you want to do something that's regenerative, so like you have a bad cut, a broken bone, You need, one of your organs needs some help because it's not really functioning well. Um, that's the heat energy is what you want to use when there's a cancer or something that needs to be removed and decimated. That's when you want to go to the super cold energy, and I won't do that one today. I'll save that for a later date.
Okay, cool. Because I've noticed generally my body tends more to go towards cold side of things. Like right now I'm like all blissed out, but I'd say I'm kind of cold. Is there a reason why we kind of tend towards one or the other?
Me too. And cold energy, like when I'm doing the physical effect, I'm trying to move something or push something or do a materialization, I go to the Arctic in my mind to jack up, and I get sub-zero, man. Like when as close to absolute zero as I can, because that's denser. It has a density. I know we're talking about energy, but it's still kind of the same thing. It has a rather than thinking about it in terms of a physical density, think about it in terms of a slower rate, a slower frequency. Not a lower frequency, but just a frequency moving at a slower speed. The hot is at the other end of that spectrum where it's moving really, really fast, which is why that's super effective in healing a broken bone or making a cut mend or regrowing muscle or that kind of thing. So, but if my personal preference, and where I kind of like skew to is the cold, and that's a good point in that, I don't think that any one of us is exactly the same. And in your aura, like we were talking about early, are different collections of little points of light that are those are the areas that tell us that's the areas in the programming in the software that's telling us how to run. And I think everybody's born with their own natural arrangement of those, and that's why people have proclivity towards different skills, different abilities, different wants and desires. And I think you probably were just on that kind of cusp. And I would say to you that most people that I know that are skewed to the cold have some real potential for doing physical work in this world, using energy in a really physical way. So just throw that out to you as well.
Because I've heard it from both sides. Like I've worked with other Reiki practitioners, and some of them say I get really, really hot when I'm doing something. And for me, it's like, no, I'm usually sending my heat out. I'm usually very cold. I'm usually sending it out, and like
a lot of Reiki guys that I've encountered, like they have a piece of it, but they don't really have the whole picture of the energy. And I know a number of them that use the hot energy for everything, but that's so like if you use the hot energy, if I had used the hot energy on my friend with colon cancer, he'd be dead.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have escalated so fast, that it just would have like pouring gas on a wildfire, So I think being aware of that particular thing is really crucial. And I would get to know since you already have that energy already, focus your intent on being able to manifest both of those, because they're not one. It's like different tools for different jobs, and it's good to be able to have access to both of those whenever you need them.
Yeah. So what do you say on the basis of the practitioner manifesting this like hot or cold scenario versus the recipient? Why do you think it's? I've seen it, like, for example, when I do it, the recipient will be sweating, but I will be cold, and then other times, because in my opinion, the Reiki energy has its own intelligence, so I don't even try to control it. And then in other times, I'll start sweating, and the recipient will start getting those goosebumps, cold. That cold. It's almost kind of like we switch polarities. What do you?
I haven't really experienced that, although, like my friend we've been talking about, he was like, "God damn, B, that's hot." I'm like, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. And when I did the cold one I've known this guy for many years, so he's been a willing guinea pig on a number of occasions, and so. The hot thing, I mean, he definitely feels. The cold thing, he was like, oh, man, that is really, but it was really not a full body scenario, and I think that's one of the difference in the Reiki kind of scenario is that a lot of people that I know they do Reiki kind of like send that in through the crown chakra and spread out through the body, as opposed to a directed laser. Like when I was working on the cancer, I mean, I was laser focused on where that was. I had he was able to get MRI information and give me a visual about exactly where that was. So I was able to really like focus on that. And I noticed his comment was, both when I helped him with a broken bone about 3 or 4 years ago, and that's where I first used the heat thing on him. And in both instances, with the cold and the hot, he felt that in a very localized place, like right there. So I'm not saying one or the other is right or wrong, but I think the Reiki thing approaches it from more of a whole body scenario than a specific laser intent.
Yeah, I would agree for sure.
Awesome.
So on that note, my last it's like noonish. You want to do another song and then talk about Ginseng Jitsu?
Yes. Basically, let's do that. We have another show coming up as well, but we can.
I was an hour late, so if we need to bag it right now, I can save Ginseng Jitsu for the next time because it'll probably take a little time. So we can cut it off here.
All right. Well, not to cut anything off, and one infinite moment in creation, but we have time. Let's say for a final round in that sense. Brandon, any more comments that you have, or Bryan, anything that's left out in terms of what we already discussed?
I'm having a great time.
Yeah, me too. And I pretty much on those topics I feel really satisfied with what I was able. I got what I wanted to get out, so all good. And I'd strongly encourage anyone listening, try it for yourself. That's one of the things that seems to be, people hear stuff and they kind of get a knowledge about it, or they know about it, but you can't really know it. You can't really grok it in fullness until you try it for yourself. It can't really become one of your truths until you acid test it and see if it actually works or doesn't. Because nothing works for every single person. And, there's such a wide variegation, as you would say.
Yeah.
So you got to keep exploring and sampling and testing and tasting until you find the things that really jam with your particular frequency. So that would be the crux of my intent today. And the autophagy, autoimmune system weaponization, go for it. No time like the present now. We're kind of under a bit of an external attack on our physical. Okay, I do have one more thing. And I won't get started on a lengthy one, but this fucking 5G thing is just like evil, dude. It is like evil to the max. I have one of my apprentices was over this weekend, and I've known him for a long time. And he's like, dude, I don't know what's going on, man. I don't know if I broke a bone or something, but my right leg is just hurting me like all the time. It's like I can hardly do anything. And all of a sudden it's just killing me. I got to go sit down. And we started talking about it. And it was not at a joint. It wasn't his knee or his hip. It was like right in the middle of his thigh bone. I'm like, wow, what a weird thing, man. And he hadn't had any accident. He hadn't fallen. He hadn't gotten hit with anything. And I'm like, well, where do you keep your cell phone? And he said, my right pocket, right on top of where it hurts. And I'm like, well, there you go. Miami is now like 5G saturated. There's nowhere to escape from it, man. I talked about this in a couple of sessions back. The same guy and I did a EMF reading when it was still 4G, and we got certain levels here that were still kind of frightening. But as we drove around the city, the different places, where the cell towers kind of were spread out, you would, in between those cell towers, get a few pools of lesser influence. But with the 5G thing, man, it is just solid. It's like there's a solidity of that frequency that it's just bombarding us at all moments. And one of the main things, it's another reason to do the autophagy, one of the main things that 5G does is decimate the immune system, which I find really curious that as 5G is exploding, so is coronavirus. It's like, that's a little fucked up.
Yeah. Well, I actually wrote a small article about this that I'm probably going to publish soon. Corona actually means the effulgence from the sphere of a luminous body. So
yes.
So it really means like the emanation from the sun or the moon, and they just attach virus at the end and kind of deceive everybody into thinking corona means, you're going to get a big disease. While I do believe there are these diseases that are weaponized and they do exist, the corona is a code word for this is gold coming through. Gold is going to be the new king of commerce. And they actually just released an article today. The Treasury essentially has absorbed the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve is now going to be funding the Treasury, refunding the Treasury, all of the debt that it owes. And they're going to be essentially... they're going to be run by this huge Jewish financing firm called BlackRock. And so, oh man, we're finna get into like, we'll save that for another episode.
That's a whole other show.
Yeah. But I really like your take on it, because this is the perfect time. I mean, we got all the time in the world now to really be like raising our vibration and really tuning into the absolute truth of the whole thing.
Exactly. Instead of just sitting around waiting to get sick or bemoaning that you don't have any paper towels or watching fucking Netflix,
Right? Jeez, dude, I can't even watch television, man. Like, all you need to do is just read the headline and you got the news.
Exactly. Skewed news at that. Wow. There's like, the corona thing, the reason they call it the coronavirus is that weird little, the way like a regular flu virus is like a sphere with little hairs coming out, but those hairs are pointed. And that's what attaches to cells in your body. The coronavirus is a sphere and has those neat-like things, but at the top of those, it's like this flat section that forms kind of like a disc at the top. So around the outside of the whole thing is kind of like this connective tissue, so to speak, you know, and that's where the origin of that connection came.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Well, thank you both so much. What I'd like to point out also, of course, with the current situation, many different factors, many perspectives coinciding. What's certainly obvious is the relationship to the idea symbolism of the sun. As I understand, they even call it COVID-19, and major arcana number 19 is the symbol for the sun.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
it's even loaded. I mean, there is this one video I really enjoy by Spacebusters on BitChute, and aside from, again, everyone can have the perspective, but they're showing articles, and you can clearly see that there is some strange number magic going on, like 433, at least for a period of time, appeared in almost every article that was related to this whole thing, which we could also interpret. I'm not sure now on the definitions, in this case for 433. Of course, then you have the whole Q thing going on with 17s thrown all around. So anyhow, whether one is interested in raising their vibration and energy levels through, you know, meditation, breathing exercises, diet, fasting, or whatever, or whether one is interested to have a more symbolistic, if that's a word, understanding, symbolic understanding of reality by applying these archetypes even to the current news, and to be aware of all the different belief systems being presented right now. It's certainly a most interesting time to, let's just say, expand your awareness in every direction.
So true. You know, my kind of like theme song for the moment is be aware, be prepared, and don't be scared. You know? Anyway. Brendan, I really enjoyed the connection, man. We'll have to stay in touch.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you both so much, and looking forward to having you both on individually or collectively next time just as well. So thanks again, guys.
Thanks to you
Hare
too.
Krishna.
Yes.
Radio Okitalk.